talking about that inner part of you that's you. So you all have kind of an idea of how to identify the you part of you. Um, and I just call it your spirit self. And that's the part that's uniquely you. And that's the part that when we're talking about low self-esteem or self-worth or your identity, that's the part of you that we talk about. That part of you feels not good enough. And that's the challenge. So one of the things that I've been working on personally is really understanding how our identity is formed at an early age and even beyond. So I don't want to be all-inclusive that this is only happening when you're a child, because sometimes you can have traumatic experiences later in life that can actually damage yourself. Your self-esteem is attacked. You have profound influences on the choices you make in life, even daily, especially when addressing assertiveness. At birth, your identity is naive and vulnerable. So at birth, your identity, you receive information based on what's happening around you. So you're laying in your crib, cradle, whatever, and you cry. Does anybody come to help? Does anybody come? Does anybody come? How long does it take them to come? And then, when they come, do they help you or hurt you? And those information, early on, you learn, I got to cry harder and longer, or I cry just briefly, and somebody notices and they come and they attend to me. Or if I cry at all, I'm going to get hurt. So you learn that early on. And the worst case scenario is failure to thrive syndrome, where babies, especially in orphanages, really bad orphanages where there's not enough adults to care for and tend to the children, they actually will die due to lack of purpose and identity. And that's just, I don't know what I'm thinking about that, but that's the worst aspect of that. And so the nurturing of your identity is important early on. I think by the time you're 5 or 6 years old, you pretty much understood how relationships work, because you understand whether somebody's caring about you, who it is that's caring about you, and in your surroundings, you've got pretty much who it is that you go to for what you need if you really need something. And then you actually watch how they relate to other people. So you see how they get their needs met and what they do. And that's how then you grow up and model that kind of behavior, or you go the opposite. If you really don't like it, then you try to go the opposite. Which is hard because you don't really know what the opposite is necessarily. And so that's why a lot of times people will revert back to what they were raised with, because that's all it was modeled, it was ingrained in their brain in early years. And so that's why they say by the time you're 5 or 6, you're pretty much nailed down as to how you understand relationships. And so being able to come in, I have a lot of kids that are either foster or abused, and it's hard because I know how much, I don't want to say deprogramming, but they sometimes have brainwashing, but I say superimposing the truth on all the lies they've interpreted. So all relationships don't have to be that way. I remember telling a child, particularly, who was just really mean and talked just mean and aggressive all the time. And I looked him in the eye, and he had an alcoholic father, depressed mother who's depressed in bed kind of thing, and basically kind of raised himself with an unmedicated AD, just a mess. Here I am, I'm going to help you. And I told him, I said, I know when you're at home, that's the way you need to talk to get the attention that you need. But you don't need to talk that way with me, because I'm here for you. And he never did it again.